He lived in a world that most people could only dream of. Towering glass walls, polished marble floors, and a sprawling garden that seemed to stretch forever. It was a home that reflected his success, his wealth, and the life he had built through years of ambition and sacrifice. Every detail spoke of comfort and privilege, the finest furniture, state-of-the-art appliances, and a staff that made sure everything ran flawlessly. Yet, amid this grandeur, there was a quiet rhythm to his daily life, almost ordinary in its routines. He moved through his mansion with ease, carrying the weight of both responsibility and achievement, unaware that the very walls of his palace could not shield him from the realities of those who served him. It was a world apart from most, yet it was about to collide with a truth he had never faced, a truth that would leave a mark far deeper than luxury ever could. One evening, as he wandered through the kitchen, something caught his eye. A small movement behind the pantry door. Curious, he stepped closer, only to discover her, the maid who had worked in his home for years, crouched on the floor, quietly eating scraps from a plate that had been set aside. She froze, her eyes wide with embarrassment, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. There was no malice in her actions, only a quiet desperation, a need to fill an empty stomach without drawing attention. It was a scene so ordinary in its simplicity, yet it struck him with a force he hadn't anticipated. He had seen her every day, carried on conversations, shared polite smiles, but he had never truly seen her struggle. In that moment, the walls of his mansion felt less like protection and more like a barrier he had yet to understand. As he looked at her, he began to notice the lines of fatigue etched on her face, the way her hands trembled slightly as she held the plate. Slowly, she began to share fragments of her life, a story of long hours, low wages, and the responsibility of caring for a family that barely had enough to survive. Her parents were elderly, her younger siblings still in school, and every day was a struggle to stretch what little money she earned to cover food, rent, and medicine. She spoke softly, almost apologetically, as if her hardships were her own burden to bear, and not something anyone else needed to know. He realized that her hidden act was not one of theft or disrespect, but of survival, a quiet testament to resilience in the face of overwhelming challenges. In that moment, her courage and vulnerability were impossible to ignore. He felt a sudden wave of emotion, a mix of shock, empathy, and an undeniable sense of responsibility. Seeing her there, small and vulnerable, made him realize how little he truly knew about the people who worked tirelessly around him. It was easy to admire their efficiency, to notice the polished routines, but he had never paused to consider the struggles hidden behind polite smiles. His initial surprise softened into a quiet understanding, a recognition that wealth and comfort could never shield him from the realities of someone else's life. For the first time, he saw her not just as an employee, but as a human being carrying burdens far heavier than he had imagined. In that fleeting moment, the distance between their worlds felt both immense and fragile, and he knew that how he responded next could change everything. Without a word, he knelt beside her, offering a hand not just to lift the plate, but to lift the weight he now understood she carried every day. He invited her to sit at the table, served her a proper meal, and spoke gently, assuring her that there was no shame in needing help. Over the next few days, he began to find ways to ease her struggles, providing support for her family, ensuring she had enough to eat, and even helping her access opportunities she had never imagined possible. It was not charity for show, but an act of genuine care, a recognition that empathy could bridge the vast gap between their worlds. In helping her, he realized that true wealth was not measured in possessions, but in the ability to touch lives, to offer dignity and hope where it had long been absent. That day, everything changed. That moment stayed with him, long after the plates were cleared and the kitchen returned to its quiet routine. He understood something he had never fully grasped before. Kindness is not a transaction, and generosity is not measured by the size of one's bank account. It was the smallest acts, the acknowledgement of struggle, the offer of support, the simple recognition of another person's worth, that carried the greatest impact. He realized that life could be both harsh and beautiful, and that the true measure of success lay not in wealth or status, but in the compassion we show to those around us. Her courage, humility, and resilience had taught him more than any business lesson or achievement ever could. And in that lesson, he found a truth more valuable than anything money could buy, a truth that would remain with him forever.